are most surprised about when I talk to them is that you don't need a solicitor. They think that as soon as you've made this decision, the first thing you have to do is go and instruct somebody. And you can't do anything until you've done that step. Because without a solicitor, you can't do this. And I think it's understanding that actually you don't need a solicitor through any of it. And almost 50% of people are now doing it themselves.
Midlife brings about significant hormonal changes for women. Impacts. Today, I'm excited to interview Bhavna Radia, a former family solicitor, mediator, and a devoted single mother of 3. Bhavna's expertise lies in helping women navigate divorce, focusing on minimizing legal fees, avoiding hostility, and ensuring a positive transition to the next chapter of their lives. Now, please welcome Bhavna Radia.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here with you today.
Could you please start with sharing the story of your personal journey and what motivated you to become a divorce coach with a focus on reducing legal fees and fostering a more amicable environment?
I had a very interesting journey into the legal field because I was that person that watched LA Law from a young age. And I saw these power suits and I saw these beautiful offices and I decided that's what I was going to do. And when I was younger, nobody really talked that through with you. They just, you know what you want to do, you just go ahead and do it. So did the usual, going through university, going to law school, qualified as a lawyer, and then I found myself practicing in family law. So all was good in the world, I'd just gone through as I should have done, as we were expected to. So I'm practicing as a lawyer, and you get to that stage where you found the thing, you think you found the thing, and it always felt a little bit empty. I always felt like there was something missing in the work that I was doing, but I never really knew what that was. And I got to a certain point where my parents were saying, you're getting a bit older now, like you're 25. This is getting, tricky now. You need to find somebody and you need to get married. So because I was a bit slow with doing this thing, they set off on their journey of trying to find me a suitable man to get married to. And so I kind of had this assisted marriage where they found me somebody that they thought was suitable. It was quite an objective way of finding somebody. We'd known each other for 8 weeks and then we got engaged. So really interesting way of finding somebody. Literally, we were thrown together. My parents said, there is a guy who's going to meet you on a date, blind date, never seen him before, knew nothing about him. I went there, met him. We got on really well. And I think I met him a total of maybe 6 or 7 times. And then we were engaged and our new life was about to begin. And so I found myself in this situation where I don't really know him. I don't know the family. And I'm getting to know him after we've got engaged and getting to know the family. And even with all of this, I still believed in that fairy tale. That's what you believe in when you get married, that happily ever after. You think this is it, it's forever. I really do understand marriage because I'm a divorce lawyer. I've seen all these things. So I know how to make sure my marriage doesn't go that way. And that was my belief. And, things were really good for a few years. And then there were some red flags popping up and I was completely blind to them. I could see that there was issues, but more things that we could get round. So I didn't really worry about it too much. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter and I started seeing a bit more of the cracks, and maybe this put more pressure on us. Maybe, other things started happening. And so I kept explaining away the red flags rather than actually dealing with them. And I think sticking my head in the sand meant that I didn't have to look at it. I didn't have to deal with this stuff. And I could just carry on. And around, I had 3 children with my husband. And around 2010, I came across some things that made me think that, really there was problems in my marriage. And, I'd struggled for a long time anyway after getting married. I could see that there was things that were not quite right. And I kept papering over these cracks. But it doesn't matter how much you paper over them, those cracks are there. And it came to a head in 2010. My youngest daughter, Sienna, was 6 days old. And I realized that I had to stop sticking my head in the sand. I had to stop making excuses. And I had to face up to where I was going. And I actually said to my husband at the time that I haven't got the strength to deal with this today, because having a young baby and 2 other children to look after, I can't do anything today. But I am going to give you an ultimatum, and this is in 2010. If I come across anything again, then I will leave. I'm going to build up my strength. I'm going to build up my ability to leave you over the next year, 2 years, however long it takes. But I know something will happen, and I know that I will leave you. So you've got a choice. You can either change things, or, if we carry on as we are, this will come to an end. And 18 months later, it inevitably happened, that I came across something and I knew that I had to make this decision, because the ultimatum wasn't for him. It was actually for me. I'd given myself an ultimatum. I just said it aloud to him. So I found myself in this place where I knew that the marriage was over. I didn't tell my husband straight away. I agonized. I kept changing my mind. I was scared. I wasn't working at this point. So financially, you're really worried. And actually, I was a complete mess. I felt like somebody had taken my future away. And it was really weird when you look at your life like that everything's been taken away from you. You've got nothing in front of you. But obviously my future was still there, but I was so scared I couldn't see it. I felt like the dreams that I had for my life and for my children had been taken away completely. And so it's like utter devastation at this point. But I decided that I'd made this decision, and I would show him that I was strong, and that I wasn't going to waver in my decision, that I was serious, because I knew that as soon as I showed any sort of weakness, that he'd be able to persuade me otherwise. And I didn't want to be persuaded the other way. So I carried on with this, and I decided that it was going to happen, and I told him. And there is this thing, when you tell your husband or wife, at that point, it becomes real. Up until then, it's an idea. You're working on what you're going to do, and you're working on your thoughts and trying to figure things out. And then you tell the other person, and suddenly this was my reality, and I had to deal with it. And I must say that the thing that I struggled with was my mental health. It went completely downhill. I just couldn't figure out how I would take any steps forward. And I think so many people find themselves in this place where it's almost paralysis. I just don't know what to do. And I think about myself, and I know that I have legal knowledge. But can you imagine all these people that don't have legal knowledge, and they're in this place where they just can't take any steps because they don't know what to do, and emotionally they're not in a good place. So my mental health really got quite bad around this time. And I went over to my GP and had a chat, because actually I had no money. I hadn't been working. I had no access to funds. And so I was in a really difficult place. But my GP was great and supported me to finding somebody to help me that was through the NHS. And this man was absolutely wonderful in giving me tools and ways of getting through this difficult time and taking action. And so I was really lucky to find him. And with that therapy that I had, I then started moving on to sort of walking, running, finding movement really helping, meditation, gratitude, and all of these things really came together to help me take steps. And we tried lots of different things to try and get to that agreement. And there's so many things to decide, so many important decisions to make at that time. And it's at a time when your emotions are all over the place. So it was really hard getting to those decisions, and mediation didn't work for us, didn't help us get to an agreement. But I learned a lot about him, and I learned a lot about how to deal with him. And I think he learned a lot about me as well. So together, after that, we were able to get to an agreement. And it was still tricky, don't get me wrong. Although we reached an agreement, actually making that happen was really tricky. And through that, I did actually end up homeless, because I decided to sell my family home, even though I hadn't quite bought another property. So we had this whole 6 to 7 months of living on people's floors with the children, but we got stronger, and we knew that I could work out any challenge through this, just because we'd been through so many difficult times that I felt once we were homeless, once we moved into our new house, we were stable. We could then move on to healing and thriving and starting to rebuild our lives. And through that time, I went back to into practice as a lawyer, just because there's bills to pay. You've got to be able to survive. My ex-husband was working and then not working, and I couldn't rely on the maintenance at the time, so I had to go back. And working as a lawyer at this point, with everything that I'd been through, suddenly felt just not the right thing to do. I found it really difficult practicing. You can imagine you're sitting there in front of somebody and all you're telling them is about a legal process, and it felt clinical. And I knew that I needed more than that when I went through it. And so I knew my clients needed more than that going through it. So I struggled with that work. And single parenting was a real struggle, working full time with 3 really young children. So I decided that I was going to find another way, and I had to just work out what this other way could be for people to get through their divorce in a different way. So I set up my business and I thought, what could I do? And really, I tried different ways of helping. And then I found something that felt truly like it was the right thing. It was transformative. I felt like it was the support that people needed. I really wanted to bring a tribe of women as well, because I think that when you are going through your divorce, you don't want to talk to family and friends constantly. You don't want to talk to your work colleagues constantly. You need this other group that can help. And so that's why I started work in a different way, to keep fees down, to make things holistic. And that was really important to me, that there was some level of certainty to the women that I was working with around their legal fees. And I do encourage people to stay amicable where possible, because we were lucky. We did stay amicable, me and my ex-husband. We went on holiday with the children. We did birthdays together. We did Christmas morning together. And it makes it so different for the children if you can. And so these things were really important to me to bring as much as I could. So that's almost from start to finish how I got to the work that I now do.
It is such an incredible story. It's amazing. Based on your experience, what are some common challenges that women typically face when going through a divorce?
The thing that I see the most, and I guess, it's understandable, is the financial aspect. That is the bit that most women struggle with. And I guess it's still because women are often earning less than their husbands. Often they have given up their careers to look after children. And so they're in a situation most of the time where they are earning less. They haven't paid into a pension. They don't have this strong career to come back to, because they've lost so many years of working life. They're not at the same level as they would have been if they hadn't given up their careers and taken maybe a lesser job or work part-time. And so there's this whole thing of feeling like the underdog almost, that you struggle with quite a bit. So I find that a lot of women have got fear around this time, because they're worried about what's going to happen to them. Maybe, you've had this agreement with your husband or wife, and you've thought to yourself, I'm going to reduce my hours. My career is not going to be priority, and we will focus on your career, and we'll both benefit from your career doing so well. And then you get to this point where you've got to split everything, and they take their career and their earning capacity and all of that with them, and their pension and everything else, and you're left thinking, what the hell am I going to do here? And I guess fear around the finances is the biggest thing that I see. How do I make ends meet? How will I ever manage to build up my asset? Can I stay in the family home? What's my mortgage capacity? But you've probably not been in control of your family finances either. And so sometimes you don't have knowledge of the finances. So again, it puts you in a weaker position. And sometimes I find that where you've been so busy with the children, you may have been in that situation where you've not managed sort of family finances for a while. So you're worried about how things work again. So it's that thing of not feeling empowered around the finances that I've seen.
And about these financial concerns, how can women effectively navigate these financial aspects and make some well-informed decisions about their future? Do you have any tips that you could share with us?
The one that I always say to everyone is start getting knowledgeable about your finances. And sometimes, even before you've told the other person, do the work and, start thinking about what do you have in your name? What assets, liabilities do you have in your name? See what you know, what you can find out about the other person's finances. Because then, with that knowledge, with that understanding, we can start planning. And with that planning becomes clarity. Suddenly we know your position. And yes, I'm not saying that your position will necessarily be wonderful because it is tough when you split one home into two. But clarity and understanding your position means you can get your head around it. Maybe understanding your entitlement as well. So I've had a client, many clients where they've said, I don't want anything, I'm just going to leave. And I say to them, let's work out what financially you've got there. Let's work out what you're entitled to, and then you make that decision. And actually, when they've realized that they have an entitlement because they feel so guilty that they made the decision that they feel like they've got to leave with nothing. So understanding your entitlement, understanding what is there, will give you a step up to deciding maybe where your settlement could be. But the emotions part of it is really important. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment, because you might feel that guilt today. You might be worried about that other person today, but actually you do need to secure yourself for the future. This is not something that is a one-time, let's just think about today. We have to think about, short, medium and long term for you. And that guilt will slowly disappear. And that person will stand on their own 2 feet and be doing well. And then you are left in a position that maybe you wouldn't have been if you'd done some of the work. But don't let listening to the stories of the other person saying to you that don't take legal help, we can do it ourselves, or you're not entitled to my pension or my income. So we'll just split this little bit because you don't have an entitlement. I've taken legal advice. You don't need to. You need to understand your own position. Don't let the other person scare you into accepting theirs. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot. I think a lot of women are in that situation. Coming back to the emotional challenges that you've described in your own situation and that often accompany divorce, how would you say women can prioritize their emotional well-being and seek support during this difficult period?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a little bit already, but going to your GP is really important. If there has been abuse in the relationship, then actually going to your GP and reporting that there has been abuse in the relationship can help. But speaking to your GP about your emotional health can be such a big factor because they can signpost you to somebody who can help you. So I had a wonderful counsellor that really changed my outlook completely. And I had to work with him for a while, but that made such a big difference to me that I was able to take the next steps. And the next steps were really starting to help myself, thinking about what I needed. And I struggled with prioritizing myself, and I still do a little, but at that time, it's really important that you do take some time out to prioritize yourself and thinking about what that could look like. So for me, it was movement. And movement could be anything. It could be dancing in your kitchen. And I found that we did a lot of that. Really loud music, dancing with the children. And we were tidying up of an evening over dinner, but like loud music dancing. I started at that point exercising a bit more. And I found that just exercising in a group brought friends, brought support, just going walking a lot, being in nature. It really helped me clear my mind. So I would definitely recommend anything like that. But I looked at journaling as well, and I took that on board in a really big way. Journaling during this time can help you write down everything you're going through. And not only do you have a log of events that you might need in the future as evidence, but what you've got is a log of your feelings. And sometimes feelings that you can't get straight in your head, when you write them down, you can see what you're scared of. You can see the thoughts that are coming up. And using those fears that you're writing down, you can go away and get clarity. So those journals are so valuable. If you're still living with your ex-husband or wife, then what you need to be careful of is obviously them finding this. And so then it's important to have maybe something digital with a password so that you can journal. You could write some gratitudes down. And gratitude, again, was something that really helped me change my mindset. I started off saying I've got nothing to be grateful for. And, we all have, but we just can't see it when everything's so dark. And so my gratitudes initially would be, well, the sky's blue. I woke up. I can hear the birds singing. And it was very emotionless. And then slowly I got better and better at doing that. And, 12 years on from my separation and divorce, I still use gratitude. Now everything has a blessing. Even in the difficult times, there is some gratitude in that, something to be learned. And meditation, again, I used as something to really balance me. But lots of people would say, well, I haven't got time for all these things. And for me, my meditation was 5 minutes and my journaling was 5 minutes. And so I could do that in 10 minutes in the morning and then go for a walk. And in the evening, I did a little bit of reading and another meditation before I went to bed, because the day was so fraught with thoughts. I needed to just clear my mind before I slept. So really, I only did sort of 20 minutes and then a walk. And if you can fit that in, you can make a big difference in how you're feeling.
For anyone who would contemplate divorcing but would feel hesitant about the process, because let's be honest, it sounds very daunting. Yeah. What advice would you offer to help them feel more empowered and confident in their decision?
One that I've mentioned already is getting knowledgeable. Get information as much as you can, because this is your process. And we need to know that you have got information. And that's why I offer lots of free talks and free resources, because it's so important for the person to understand as much as they can so that they can make the best decisions. But when you're feeling hesitant about taking this step, there's a lot there about self-awareness, I think, and understanding yourself through this and what's important to you. So almost when I was thinking about this, I really couldn't make the decision whether to leave or not. Even though I'd given that ultimatum, I kept changing my mind. And I looked at myself and I thought, okay, where is my life going to be in a year, 5 years, and 10 years if I stay in this same place? And understanding that my life was probably going to be worse as time went on because of various factors. And in 10 years, I could imagine that I'd be so unhappy that I'd waited to leave. And then really understanding the pros and cons of my situation. So the advantages of leaving really outweighed the advantages of staying. And as I did that work, when I was writing it all down, I could see that almost in my heart, my life could be anything if I closed this chapter and started a new one. And that really inspired me to take the steps, because I could now see it on paper. Think about what you're scared of as well. And I had to do a lot of work around this because there was so much fear. So with actually that self-awareness and understanding what you are scared of, what fears are coming up for you, what thoughts are coming up for you when you think about this process. Understand that fear is just a way of your brain stopping you from moving into something that is new. It's your brain trying to keep you alive. And sometimes fears are not true. Like, I kept saying, my children are going to be druggies if I get divorced. And that was my fear. And quite clearly, that's not necessarily true in any way. I thought they would not be educated. I thought that they probably wouldn't contribute to society and it would be all my fault. And 12 years on, it quite clearly isn't the case. My children are well adjusted. They're growing up. They see their dad. they're happy within their lives. They, spend a lot of time with me. So there's nothing broken about them. And, yes, what they've been through has been a challenge, but actually they've learned a lot through it. So don't assume that these fears that you've got are true. Really try and understand yourself and see what's coming up. If it is the finances, that is a practical thing that we can work on and understand your position. And then really, the steps you need to take, and you'll understand what your life will look like before you even move forward in this process. So hopefully those tips will help. They certainly helped me when I was going through it.
Yeah, that's plenty of tips. And I think what comes to me is like, even though it sounds like a simple decision, it comes in steps, and it's a very long process actually, because it's normal to hesitate, to weigh the pros and the cons, and yeah, to take time to make this decision. Once someone has made this decision to get divorced, what would you say is one crucial aspect that the individual may not be aware of, yet would be beneficial for them to know?
I think the thing that people are most surprised about when I talk to them is that you don't need a solicitor. They think that as soon as you've made this decision, the first thing you have to do is go and instruct somebody. And you can't do anything until you've done that step. Because without a solicitor, you can't do this. And I think it's understanding that actually you don't need a solicitor through any of it. And almost 50% of people are now doing it themselves because solicitors are expensive. Your average fee for divorce in the UK is 18,000 per person. And that's average. So it could be from 10,000 to 50,000. And a lot of people do get to those sort of numbers of 50,000 each. And when you're going through a divorce and you're splitting your household, you don't have £50,000 each to spend on legal fees. That's money that you should keep in your pocket. You need it. So, understanding that you don't have to rush and get a solicitor, that the actual legal process for divorce is mainly administrative. You can go online and apply for divorce yourself. There is no cost to it. The government have made it really easy for you to do yourself. It's now written in a way of series of questions online that are quite simple to understand. So it's possible for you to save, maybe £1,500 on doing that bit yourself. And the rest of the process around finances, a lot of it is common sense where you're sitting down together and working it through. If that's not possible, there's lots of other ways of getting to agreement. And certainly around your children, that nobody gets involved because you are the best people to make decisions for your children. So don't think you need a solicitor through the whole process, that there are bits that you can do yourself. And actually, if you need help, buy in the help you need. Don't just get someone to do everything for you. So be really savvy about how you spend your money and think about how you're spending it, because your legal fees can get up to 30,000 and you're thinking, how did this happen? Most of this I could have done myself. And that's the bit that I feel really sad about when people come to me, and I've got some clients that say that I've spent 30,000 and I don't feel like there's anything here that I couldn't have done myself. I feel really upset that I did that. And I don't want people to make that mistake. I want people to feel empowered and understand the process so they can do it themselves.
Yeah, that's really positive actually, because usually when we don't know what we don't know, it's usually a bad surprise. But here you're telling us that actually there's a lot we can do ourselves, and the government is actually helping this process by making things easier by using plain language. So that's really positive. That's great. What would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of your journey so far, in providing support to women and men perhaps during this critical phase of their lives?
Oh, there's so many things. I really feel like now my work is rewarding for me. I get so much from seeing my clients moving forward. So when you start working with somebody, when you have that first call with someone, often they can't see any hope in their lives. They know this is coming, and I understand how they feel. There is a blank there. They don't understand that life is going to be okay again. but you just have to go through this difficult process right now. And I think, seeing women particularly go from this person that had no hope, that thought life was going to be terrible for them, but then realizing that life is actually quite good and there's so many things that they can now do. So that transformation of, feeling low to understanding the joy and happiness in life again, despite their divorce, is absolutely amazing. And that divorce really, it just doesn't define you. Yes, it's something you've been through like anything else. But I want people to understand that they are more than their divorce. That, what they are achieving from this place is absolutely amazing, and they can definitely be happy again. And that you can have really good connections, that finding that space in your life where you start looking at who you are as a person. When I came out of this, I remember thinking, somebody said, "What movies do you like to watch?" And I was like, I don't really know. I know what my ex-husband liked to watch, and I know what my children like to watch. I don't know who I am. I didn't know what kind of food I like. I didn't really know what made me happy. And it's that journey of self-discovery that I see my clients go through that is absolutely amazing, where they're trying to rediscover who they are. They are hitting heights that they never thought possible, but I could see it in them. And just helping, being a small part of that journey with them is just absolutely amazing. So I'm so glad I'm able to do this.
That's incredible. As we're coming to an end, is there anything that I haven't asked or mentioned that you would like to add to the conversation?
I think it's that inspiration side of things, that when you are thinking about this, when you are going through this, don't lose hope. Keep that vision of where you are going. Keep that vision of your new life. And actually spending some time thinking about where you want to go, what your life will look like on the other side, what you want, how you want to feel, gives you that anchor when things get difficult. So, sometimes when I see clients going through a hard time, sometimes parts of this can get really difficult. And I want them to anchor into that vision, to really hold that vision strong and keep moving towards it. Because on the other side is a really good life, is a life that you design, that you choose. We just have to get you through this bit right now to get you to that other side, and then see things transform for you.
Amazing. So full of hope. For the listeners who would like to connect with you, find out more about your program and services, where is the best way to reach out?
I'm on Instagram quite a bit, so it would be great to have people come and join me there. I'm always sharing free resources and lots of tips on there. And they can also message me on Instagram as well. So my Instagram is bhavna.radia. So feel free to come and have a conversation, touch base. I love to chat to people, and there's always lots of things that I can help with.
And you've mentioned that you've got talks on a regular basis. Perhaps they would be linked to your website, isn't it?
Yes, so you can join them from Instagram, but
okay.
You can see them on Instagram, but definitely on my website as well. You can register for them. They're every Wednesday at 12 o'clock, all different subjects around divorce. So it's just, great to see people come along and learn and get some information, but also have that opportunity to ask questions, which sometimes people don't have. They just don't know where to turn on this one question. So feel free to come along. It would be really nice to have, more of your listeners there, and to be able to help them.
All the details will be in the show note, but can you tell us your website?
Yes, it's www.divorceright.co.uk.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bhavna, for this incredible chat full of positive energy and empowerment. Your passion and commitment for guiding women through divorce is truly inspiring. If you've enjoyed this interview, perhaps you will enjoy this one or that one. And if you found this conversation useful and uplifting, please like the video and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts. Have you also considered to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest interview? Until next time, stay strong.